Welcome back, everyone, to the second episode of Overwatchers, a podcast all about Blizzard's new FPS, Overwatch. I'm Garrett Weinzerl, and I am joined, as I have been for one entire week, Mr. Patrick Beja. Patrick, welcome back. How you doing?
I am doing excellent, Mr. Weinzerl.
Minster. Yeah.
Well, I got the name right. I'm doing awesome. I'm super happy about the show, and honestly, a little bit happier than I thought I would be.
Yeah. The feedback has been really cool. I was expecting the majority of people to just do what I was doing in my head and be like, well, why are you doing a show now? And instead, most people have seemed to figure out why I actually did it, because they're like, oh, wow, you guys seem really excited about the game. I enjoyed your banter. And I'm like, that's why we did it. That's why we did the show.
Someone, I should probably mention their name, posted the show on the subreddit, saying, hey, I found this. It's really cool. Come check it out. It was Armand Lex who posted it, and it made me incredibly happy. We got 33 upvotes, which, it sat at the top of the subreddit for, I don't know, about like 6 hours. Of course, it was a Sunday and not much was happening, but still, I've been a Reddit lurker for a long time, and it was super rewarding to see that the Reddit community enjoyed the show. I think it also made me figure out exactly why I wanted to do the show. And I think why a lot of people are starting, shows and doing fan art and I couldn't quite put it into words, but Reddit, you helped me. I think it's because we just want to be part of this community. We just want to be all together, being excited about it, and just having this feeling of communal excitement, and getting that reception, kind reception on the subreddit exactly did that for me. So thank you very much. It was an achievement in my book.
Yeah, absolutely. So. There's so much. There's definitely a buzz in the air about Overwatch. We talked a little bit last week about how it for us it was just kind of exciting to actually be at ground zero for Blizzard announcing a new IP, which is so rare nowadays. But it's also it's fun to be excited. Dills mentioned that I think it was on the instance from BlizzCon when you guys were trying to you guys do a good job of trying to talk about the pros and the cons of anything, and you were talking about how maybe Overwatch wouldn't be super great or whatever, and Dill said, you know what, it's just more fun to be excited, so that's what I'm going to go with, and that's what I love about doing shows with Dills, because he really does believe that. He's just like, can we just be allowed to be excited? I had a very similar reaction to the internet yesterday when the Jurassic World trailer came in. I'm like, damn it, people, I just want to be excited about a giant dinosaurs. Can you let me do that? So
it's fair to say it's still very early. We don't know for sure, which I think I was saying it on the instance, but at the same time, it is very exciting, and it's fun to be together and looking forward to it. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of good fun, and yeah, everyone should check out the Overwatch Reddit. It's just Overwatch, nothing fancy over there, because they keep posting great stuff. I didn't realize the TF2 community was already basically turning the Scout into Tracer via hats and costumes. But thanks to the Reddit Overwatch, or the Overwatch Reddit, I am now fully aware of that. And it just brings a smile to my heart and face.
Yeah, it's really fun. I mean, the community is already super active, and it's gonna be a fun ride for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So last week we did kind of an overview discussion. Starting today and bleeding into next week, we're going to start talking about the heroes themselves. And then I believe we actually talked about, we're thinking we're going to do a fourth episode to kind of wrap everything up, where we'll do a big mailbag. We'll take emails from those of you who have been listening and take your opinions and your questions and talk about them. So again, the email for that, and the more Patrick makes fun of this, I feel the need to change it really bad, but it's mailoverwatchers@gmail.com. That's MAIL overwatchers@gmail.com. So send your emails there. We've already gotten a few, so keep them coming, guys. Thanks for sending in your emails. We really appreciate it. So anyways, Patrick, let's talk some Overwatch heroes, because at the moment there's 12 of them. So we're going to talk about 6 today. Some we've played, some we've been owned by, some I didn't see all weekend at BlizzCon, which I thought was interesting. And we'll get into it. We're going to start with the offensive heroes, because there's 4 different tiers that all the heroes kind of fall under, and we decided to start with them today. And I feel it's correct to start talking with Tracer, because she's on all the posters. She's Britishing up the hell out of that trailer.
Well, she's really the poster girl for Overwatch, right? She's the one that, at least for now, she seems to be the main character that they're centering the main part of their communication on. So yeah, of course. And talking about offensive heroes, I think is the name of the category. Yeah, it is offense.
It is offense, because there's a defense category as well.
Yeah. So we're going to do offense and tank today. And I think the offense is probably the easiest ones to get into, and the ones that people are going to try for the first time they play. Probably they're the ones they're going to try. It definitely was the one type I was most attracted to initially.
Well, if you've ever
and
played...
Tracer is the first one I tried for sure.
Yeah, I feel like if you ever played a first-person shooter before, obviously the people that point their guns at people and make them die is going to feel the most familiar.
I make you dead. So I don't think we're going to go into too much of a lore discussion about the heroes. It's going to be mostly, I mean, we're going to tell a little bit of what they're about, but there's tons of information about their story and who they're friends with and which faction they're aligned with and all of that. I don't think that's what we're going to do, unless that's what you want to do.
No, I wanted to talk about how they actually play and how they mess other players up. That's the thing I'm excited about.
So we're all about gameplay. We're all about gameplay. That's what we're about. All about gameplay could be the title for the episode, by the way.
Patrick's just tooting his own horn all up and down this episode already.
All right, so Tracer, what is she? I think a lot of the people listening to this have probably heard about her already. She's all about teleporting, as you put it, Garrett. She's got super fast guns that empty in about 2 seconds flat. She empties a 40 bullet clip in 2 seconds. And if you aim at the opponent's head, then they're going to be dead. However, if you miss, you're probably going to spend the next 2 seconds reloading and being dead yourself. So that's sort of, you really have to get in to do some damage with her. Thankfully, she has a lot of tools to move around. The first one, pretty obviously, is the blink ability that teleports her 10 meter forward, or actually in any direction she's moving. And she can do that 3 times before she has to wait for the thing
cooldown.
For the ability to recharge. Cooldown. Thank you. So, but she can. That's going to be a constant with most heroes. They can use one ability pretty much all the time, because the cooldown is not like 30 seconds. It's something like, I don't know, 5 or 7 seconds. So you can pretty much teleport all the time. And then in conjunction with that, she has the recall ability that brings you back to the place and health you were at 6 seconds ago.
3 seconds.
Sorry, 3 seconds ago. Why am I saying 6? So obviously mobility is paramount for that character. She is going to be the incredibly annoying character that you're never going to know where she is. But at the same time, if you can wait for her at her recall point, you can probably do some damage to her. So knowing how she plays is obviously a key element to playing against her. The last ability is the Pulse Bomb. The Pulse Bomb is a bomb that she lobs not really far away, like 5 meters away, I think. That surprised me at first, because I threw it and I was like, yeah, it's going to go super far, and it blew up in my face. And it explodes after maybe 3 seconds. So again, it plays into that coherent gameplay mechanics of her getting in, doing the damage and then getting out of it as quickly as possible. And with the pulse bomb, she can get out before it explodes, obviously, because she will take damage from it. So yeah, it's a super approachable, fun, immediately fun character that also has a lot of depth, because you can imagine the scenario where she would blink like a couple of times, get behind enemy lines, put the pulse bomb on a key target objective, and then get out of there through her recall ability. So it's not easy to do. Believe me, I've tried and I've died in the process.
Yeah, I feel like Tracer it's a good example of Blizzard's key strategy with all their games, which is the whole easy to learn but difficult to master. Because when you pick her up and you're like, oh, she can blink and she can teleport, and this is first person, this must be hard to control. But then you just tap shift and she just blinks in whatever direction you happen to be moving. You're like, oh wow, that's deceptively simple.
True.
I mean, all of these characters have at most 4 buttons that they have to press, but it's the combination of everything and your map awareness that it all kind of congeals into harder to master. And the more you're aware of all these things, of the tools at your disposal, it's going to make you a much better player and a much more formidable opponent.
She also has a limited amount of health. She has 250, which is a baseline for these offensive characters. But she will die if you're not careful. I mean, she's definitely not someone that will withstand a lot of damage. And what you were saying about the fact that she's very approachable, I feel that's probably why they're focusing on her so much. She's really a character that's easy to play when you first get into the game, so they want people to try her first, probably. Yeah. And she's also all chipper and fun, and she has an outrageous English accent. She's just... Oh, and by the way, I wanted to thank Sarna Kyle on Twitter, who let me know that there are actually 5 female characters in Overwatch already. I said there were 4. There's actually 5. Pharah, Tracer, Mercy, Widowmaker, and Symmetra, which is a super weird character we'll talk about next time.
I can't wait to talk about Symmetric.
Yeah,
I think she's one of the coolest video game characters in a while.
She's cool. But yeah, so Tracer, there you go. Offense. Anything else we want to say about her? She's squishy. She does some damage, close range.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I really not her specifically, but talking about her shift ability, which is blink, I want to kind of talk about just the traversal techniques and movement in this game overall. Just about every hero seems to have some unique way of getting around the map, which I love, because I feel like in any game, if you can make moving through the world fun, it makes the whole experience so much more delightful.
I guess that's a very good point, because blinking is super fun. I mean, you have fun just pressing that button, and it makes... When you start out as the team that you are, you get out of the base when you just started playing, and everyone is fanning out, right? The levels, I can't remember if we mentioned this, but the levels have a lot of verticality to it, and that it makes a lot of sense when you hear about how much of the characters' abilities are movement related. So some of them are climbing the walls, some of them are grappling to the walls, and you are unique in your... Of course, unless there are 3 other tracers on your team, but you're just blinking around, going super fast, and it makes that process in itself enjoyable. And it's true for her. I think it's true for all the other ones as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I remember when they were breaking down the game and they said that, oh, there's no sprint on shift and stuff like that. I was like, I'm not sure about this, because like recent first person shooters have made the way that your character moves through the world or the battleground much more fun and interesting. You got games like Titanfall and whatnot that have boosts and wall runs and all kinds of stuff. And it's like, hooray! I'm not just running around on a 2-level map. But as soon as I started diving into all of these heroes, I'm just like, oh no, moving around is going to be a blast.
Well, that's part of what we were talking about last week, actually, about making it, removing the tedium. And we mentioned it about reloading last week, but this is part of it as well. What is the point of sprinting if not making you move slower when you can't sprint? So, and it's a button you press all the time anyway. At least that's the way, I feel a little bit. So instead of having the sprint, just give people another fun way of moving around. For some of them don't have a movement ability, but yeah.
Right, exactly. I mean, I like sprinting games, but discussion for another day.
Well, obviously you're wrong then, Garrett. That's easy. The discussion easily settled.
Well, fine. I'm gonna throw down the gauntlet. I like the option of moving at 2 different speeds while I'm trying to aim at a target.
Fair enough.
So there you go. Although most games when you sprint, you can't actually aim while you're doing it. So never mind. My argument is invalid. Anywho, moving on. I want to talk about Reaper next. Who, while I didn't get the chance to play, I did get completely destroyed by this character multiple times on the BlizzCon floor. While Overwatch developers around got to see Garrett rage at close proximity. So, did you get a chance to play Reaper?
Yeah, I did actually.
Okay.
Yeah, so maybe I'll take that one.
Yeah, because I wanted to talk him back after Tracer because honestly he kind of feels like he has a similar theme. Like he's all about closing the gap because he has short range, but he's
a little bit.
He's really imposing because you can see it coming. Like he just
he actually plays completely differently, and that's what I felt as well. Initially, it was like, oh, okay, so he has a teleport, he has movement abilities, so it's basically the same thing, right? And it's actually not at all. First of all, when I first saw it, I was like, he is a standard I am death character that we've seen in so many other games, and that is super boring.
Yep,
that was my first reaction.
If you read the notes, right. I wrote, because all games need a hood-wearing badass.
Yes, exactly. And the thing is, Blizzard does classic archetypes, and then they do something a little bit different, and they make it really cool. And I think I really fell in love with... Yes, I'm saying it. I fell in love with Reaper. There you go. When I started seeing a little bit more of its design, character, and gameplay. So design-wise, the character is not like Death. He's just wearing a death mask, and he's some sort of psycho that goes around and enjoys killing people, which is not super original, but the design is cool. Like the way he carries himself, the guns he has 2 shotguns. That's also one of the really commented feature about the character. When you reload, he just throws away his guns and pulls out new ones out of nowhere. I mean, if that's not a cool reload animation, I don't know what is. And then
it is. I'm here to confirm.
There you go.
Amazing. When I saw that, I was just like, oh man. All right.
Yeah, it's just it bleeds badassery and coolness. Blizzard has a design tenet that is they talk about a lot in World of Warcraft. It's concentrated coolness. They want to make they don't want to make things that are just a variation on something else. Most of the time, they just want to have something that is unique and that feels badass and that feels. All of them feel a little bit overpowered. When, of course, they have counters, and hopefully the game will be really balanced, but they all feel like they have things that are super powerful. And I'm going to go into the ultimate ability for Reaper, because it plays into his character a little bit as well. It's what's called Death Blossom, which is him firing around everywhere around him, 360 degrees. He can move slowly, I believe, as he's doing it, but the animation for it is also incredibly cool. And you can see it on the Overwatch website, on Play Overwatch. It's just like the way he's moving, it's got some anime quality to it, or maybe comic, I guess, but I don't know. There's a dynamic in the movement that makes me feel of some innovative anime things we discovered with anime a while ago.
It reminds me a lot of Trigun, personally. That's just what I had in my head. So you're not alone in that kind of connection there.
Yeah. So 2 shotguns, the standard shooting ability. Then you have 2 additional abilities, which one is Wraith Form, where you become invulnerable, but you also obviously can't shoot. So he becomes a kind of a shadow-like thing, and he moves around, very visible, and not super quick. He's not darting around everywhere like Tracer is, but he's, moving at a reasonable speed.
Yeah, that was thing. That's what I was getting at the beginning is while these are both characters that are short-range, offensive characters that have ways to close the gap, whereas Tracer literally blinks. She's there. She's far away at 1 second. She's up in your face the next. Reaper, when he activates this Wraith form, it happens exactly where he is, and he stays there. But you're shooting at him, and bullets are passing through him, and you're just watching this smoke death thing move towards you, and you're just like, I am so screwed. It is time to turn tail and run. And it's so foreboding. Because this was one of the most popular heroes I feel played that weekend. So I played. There was a Reaper in every game I played. I played against him a lot, and it was just this feeling of this is I don't know,
of doom.
That's what I assume being in the hallway with a Terminator feels like. It's just like, oh shit,
exactly.
Here it
That's
comes.
A very good comparison. I mean, the second ability, the Shadow Step, which is a proper teleport. And again, you're going to think, well, is this like Tracer? Well, absolutely not, is my answer, good sir or madam. The Shadow Step is something that you place with a target. You have a targeting reticle, and you have to be line of sight to where you want to go. I don't think there's even a distance limitation. So this might need to be confirmed, but anywhere you can see, you can set the reticle there, click the button, and you're going to teleport there. The thing is, it takes about, 2 seconds or 3 seconds to teleport. So it's not a highly, it's not super quick mobility. It's more about seeing where you need to go and just maybe behind enemy lines or on a ledge where you can see the point that the others are defending right below you, and you just get there like this. And strategically, it's incredibly important. And also as a design, you see it in the cinematic. I mean, the gameplay cinematic. He just appears behind Hanzo, I believe, and he's like, and then shoots his awesome, badass shotguns and destroys the enemy. That's what he's about. He's like, he will appear behind you and you will be dead, and that's really an awesome character to play. So. That's what he is about for me.
Absolutely. He feels like the most roguish to me, and to bring in like a Warcraft term, like just like, oh great, he's not stealth, but he might as well be because he can just appear behind me.
But the rogues are like, how can I say it? The rogues feel like revengeful, tiny, annoying little stabby people, right? He feels like a heavy, deliberate murderer. It's a little bit of a different.
He's Jason Voorhees. He's not Freddy Krueger.
Well, even Freddy Krueger is kind of slow, but yes, in that sense. Yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
It's funny that for, talking about Reaper, all of these references are coming to you. It's like psycho killers, death machines from the future. Well, like that absolutely captures him.
It's that Wraith ability, man. They struck such a good chord with me because I love having a sense of foreboding in an arena shooter. It's very rare. Stuff happens so fast, you don't really get a chance to take in what's about to happen to you. And this Wraith form totally lets that happen. You're just kind of sitting there like, All right, I need to run. I need to run. I need to run. All right, running.
I think the one of the shadow step ability is also super powerful because and people, it's maybe a little bit different for shooters. Again, we've been saying that it feels like a very different type of shooters and some of the gameplay you've never really experienced in shooters before. And in this case, it takes a little bit, maybe, a couple of games to get used to it. But when you do, it's like you can get almost anywhere. And once you're there, not only do you have the shotguns, but you also have the Death Blossom, which is very aptly named because you're going to die if you're next to it. So that also plays into it. You're just going to appear and destroy everything. And that's, again, very deliberate, very slow. It's not like hectic, like the kind of, it requires a little bit of thinking ahead and strategy because there are drawbacks. It takes time to teleport and all of that. So anyway.
Right. I feel like his escape mechanism is making sure there's no one around to kill him anymore rather than actually escaping.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So Reaper is he lived up to the what seemed on the surface as a pretty cut and dry trying to make a badass character, but he totally lives up to it.
Lives up, you meaning he is better than that.
Right, exactly. It's just he is deserving of his skull mask that everyone bought the T-shirt of and is now trying to sell on eBay for an obscene amount of money. So, so let's talk about Pharah a little bit and continue the anime references because Pharah looks like an Ava and a Gundam got together and made an Egyptian themed version.
Yeah, she's also. Maybe did you play her?
I did not. This was one of the ones I really wanted to play, and it just I kept finding myself in situations where I was like, all right, we need a Reinhardt or a healer. So I kept jumping between those two because I very quickly kind of found myself enjoying Reinhardt and Mercy way more than I thought. I thought I was going to get in here and just be all Tracer all the time, and very quickly fell in love with Reinhardt and Mercy. But
yeah,
Pharah's pretty high on my list.
Okay, so Tracer, her primary weapon also makes her super approachable. She is, well, maybe we should talk about the design. You said, it's kind of an armor mecha kind of character, but she also, basically she can fly.
Yeah.
So her I think it's her space or maybe shift. I can't remember.
She has two movement abilities. She's got a boost jump on shift, but she also has a hover on spacebar.
Exactly.
If you hit space, it'll actually activate her jump. And if you hit, you can actually kind of not quite double jump, but you can stutter your taps of spacebar while you're in the air to activate her hover.
Right. So basically you can stay in the air, jump really high, and stay in the air. You can't quite fly. You can't really control it really well, but you can hover quite a bit as her. You can... You can... So that makes her really effective in that verticality of the levels that we're talking about, because I don't think other characters have quite that control over their verticality. A lot of them can move vertically, but she can stay in place even when there aren't any ledges or anything like that. So it makes her kind of unique. Her rocket launcher makes, honestly, what it made me think of was the soldier in Team Fortress 2, because it's a very approachable weapon. You can see where it goes, and it explodes with ranged, damage. So you don't have to be the exact super precise. Obviously, the drawback is that it takes time to get where you're shooting it. So it's not, it's not God mode, obviously. And then so after the jump jet, which is her second ability, or her first ability if you don't count her weapon, she has what's called a concussive blast, and that's so how every good robot or weaponized armor has tiny weapons in their wrists, and you can point at it like Iron Man and it shoots rockets. Well, that's what it is. And that knocks back enemies and does a lot of damage to shields, and things like that. So that is something, one of the things I feel was kind of a little bit more complex than people were getting the hang of in one game, because shields were really, really powerful in the games I played.
Absolutely.
And they were, right. So we weren't really used to getting behind the shields, maybe as Tracer or Reaper, or destroying the shields with specific weapons like Pharah's concussive blast. Am I pronouncing this right? Concussive.
I believe it's concussive.
Concussive.
Like a concussion.
Concussive. Thank you.
But,
I am French after all. And I apologize for that.
I don't know. I don't feel like getting in here and trying to correct you every time you say beta or concussive. So I'm just gonna let it slide.
So yeah, you shoot a concussive blast at a barrier, and you're gonna make it disappear, which people weren't really getting used to yet. But the last ability.
Oh, I was gonna say, I don't feel like you were alone in that, because if the word on the floor of BlizzCon the whole weekend was just like, oh, Reinhardt's overpowered because he has this giant shield and no one can do anything with it. And then I was like talking to my buddy who works at Blizzard. He's like, "Oh, you should have played Symmetra because she can just straight up destroy shields." I'm like,
yeah.
"Oh, I didn't know
and
this."
Remember, you can switch heroes as every time you die. Another one is Bastion. Bastion was destroying us in his turret mode. We'll talk about Bastion next year, but he has a really powerful shield, and we didn't really know how to deal with it.
Did you say next year?
I'm sorry?
I have to stop. Did you say we're going to talk about him next year?
I meant next episode, which might be next year. You don't know. We haven't set a date.
Many things could come up, and we're honestly not that far away from a new year. So
exactly.
Yeah.
No. So next episode, hopefully next week. So anyway, her ultimate ability, which I don't know if we've mentioned it in this episode, but ultimate abilities are maybe every minute and a half you can use it, and it charges as you're dealing damage or receiving damage. So it's again something you can use fairly often. And her ability is she sends, it's basically, again, Iron Man getting really, really angry and shooting all the rockets he has at the area where the person or thing that made him angry is. And she shoots for, I don't know, maybe 5 to 10 seconds. It's tons of rockets.
It's a long period. It's a huge volley of explosives.
Yeah. And she can kill a lot of people if they don't get out of there, they're probably gonna die. So it's a really powerful ultimate, and it plays into the fantasy of the mecha, the Japanese mech character really well. They're all super coherent with themselves. Every ability complements their design. And for her, I think it wasn't, I don't know. It works really well for her. I really like her as a character. I don't think there are many characters I don't really like, but her I like.
Yeah, I feel like if I was to say I'm really excited to play more of this hero, I would say that for every hero on both of the episodes we're about to do. I love these type of abilities really in any game, because even if you're missing with a large area of effect damage spell, you're doing something else. You're controlling that space for the time that ability is active. And I love space control in any type of competitive team-based game. So
sure.
I'm glad to see someone in here with a good old-fashioned volley ability. So.
And I think her weapons are relatively easy to use, but her movements might be a little bit less easy to use. So she's approachable for beginners, but there's also a lot of room to grow with something that's understandable. I think for Tracer, room to grow implies really mastering the abilities you already have and turning them into something strategic. For Pharah, it's just understanding the ability you don't yet understand. So my feeling is she's probably a little bit more approachable than the others.
No, I agree. The fact that she has a rocket launcher, I mean, I think it's right there. That's her basic thing. It's like, well, who doesn't want to shoot area effect explosives? I mean, everyone. So
yeah. Who doesn't want to shoot area effects explosive? No one. That's who.
Even the Frenchman is behind it. So let's the final offensive hero we want to talk about today is Hanzo. He's also the final offensive hero who's playable at BlizzCon. Who is our ninja assassin archer, because you can't cram enough badass words into the description of any one of these heroes.
But you know, that's really what he is. And I think it also, again, plays into the concentrated coolness that Blizzard has as a tenet. It's not enough to do the archer, right? Because you can have a character archetype that's the archer. Yeah, okay, he's going to have a bow and he's going to shoot arrows. But he is an archer that's also badass for 5 additional reasons. Which I'm going to let you get into.
Right. Really, again, I always come back to movement abilities. And Hanzo, he can climb up walls. And it's again, deceptively simple because it is just bound to his normal jump on spacebar. So if you jump at a wall, you will just climb up it and grab the ledge and pop yourself up top. And going back to what you said about verticality, this is a great tool. And again, on the floor at BlizzCon playing Overwatch for the first time, this was the character that was making me the most angry because players had. I waited until the second day to play. There were clearly players in the pit who had just been playing all weekend and doing nothing else. And on the Egyptian map, there are all these very tall pillars, nothing else around them. And there was a Hanzo player who was just sitting on the pillar outside our spawn area, just headshotting us with arrows as we left, and it was just like furious. And Hanzo is directly responsible for me trying out Widowmaker for the first time because I was like, all right, you son of a bee, and I just came out and just headshotted him right off the pillar. And I'm like, yeah, take that, Hanzo. But he's a formidable opponent. And so getting into his other abilities, though, obviously the big thing you'll notice is, other than he looks like a slimmed-down Khal Drogo with more tattoos, is that he's got this big bow. And I totally get an Avengers Hawkeye vibe from this guy because he's got his standard shot, which is a pretty normal arrow. You can hold it down short, and it's kind of inaccurate and does less damage, or you can hold it down and he pulls it back, and you see the target reticule get really fine, and that's kind of your power shot. But then he also has an ability called Sonic Arrow, which is like this kind of, I forget, I think it's Alt-Shift or like Shift right-click or something to do Sonic Arrow. I forget exactly the combination, but it's very simple. You hold down Shift and then it's one of your mouse clicks. And he just shoots an arrow and it just sticks to a surface and it lets out a pulse and it'll mark a target that or multiple targets that are in its range. So you'll see kind of this red diamond and it'll move and because he's sniper-esque in how much damage his bow can do if he charges it up. It's a very good tool at his disposal because it lets you kind of trace your target before they come out from behind a wall.
Wait a second. Does that mean the next arrow you fire is going to trace it, or
no?
Is it just for visibility?
It's just for visibility. So so you fire at a wall, and on the other side of this wall there's an enemy. You'll see the red diamond, and if you see them moving towards the opening, you can lead your shot before you can actually see them.
Right.
So it's just a good tool. I mean, being able to see through walls is always a good thing in a shooter, or really any game for that matter. And then his final basic ability is his scatter arrow, which again is another just real quick, shift command, I believe. And he just shoots this arrow, and the effect is so dope. It breaks and it ricochets everywhere and hits a bunch of targets in the area. This is one of my favorite spell effects in the game, I think. I think it's It's very
yeah,
visceral.
it is very cool. The way he animates also when he does it is really, really cool. He like jumps around with um, the electricity all around him. It's very cool. But the the use of it is also special, because then it means you can go to a high point or somewhere that is, overlooking an area that is being used by your enemies to block a zone or something like that, with shields that you can't attack up front. But if you get a little bit of an angle, then you're going to shoot the wall behind them, and it's going to ricochet and damage them anyway, even, go behind the shield.
Absolutely.
Or, if there's a sniper, a Widowmaker on a high place on a building, and you don't want to get right to her, you can shoot the corner of the wall, and it's going to ricochet again and at least do a lot of damage to her. So there's a lot of strategy in there too.
Yeah, absolutely. His whole kit, he's all about getting vertical, getting high up, very similar to, we'll talk about Widowmaker next week. And like you said, getting these angles. And he was, I feel like because everyone hadn't figured out how to destroy shields for the most part at BlizzCon, that Hanzo was everyone's kind of, that was their anti-Reinhardt. All right, get high, get an angle, get your scatter shots in there. Or scatter arrow, sorry, not a hunter. But anyway, we haven't talked about his ultimate yet, which I think is probably the most iconic ability displayed at BlizzCon this year from their unveiling of Overwatch, because it is a giant double dragon that corkscrews through a massive area in a frontal straight line. And you saw a lot of this in the casted match that they showed during the Overwatch panel, and I saw a lot of it in games that weekend. So it's instantly recognizable because it's such a, like I said, it's such an iconic ability. But it does a ton of damage in the direction it travels, and it goes through walls. So
and shields.
And yeah, you're right.
I can't remember, but I think so.
I think it just goes through everything. I don't think there's anything that just like stops it or nullifies it. I think the only way to deal with Dragon Strike is to get out of its way.
That seems to be a theme.
Yeah, yeah, and I like it again. More space control. This one a little shorter than Pharah's ability, but yeah, also alleyways are going to be scary if you're playing against a Hanzo.
It's again a way to make everyone feel overpowered. And what you're saying is, you were saying if we say I'm really looking forward to playing this character more, we're going to say it for everyone, and it's very true, and that plays into the excitement, I think, for Overwatch. It's kind of a little bit of the same thing as it is for World of Warcraft. When you have a few abilities for classes in World of Warcraft, when you start playing a little bit, each of the classes feel awesome. You're like, oh, but this class can do that. I want to play that class, right? And
right.
In here, it's a little bit of the same thing, but even more approachable, because you don't have to, level for a certain amount of time to get to whatever ability, or it's just immediately that badassery is immediately available to you. So,
yeah, and the thing I really like is that it all feels very unique to each hero. Even again, going back to our Tracer Reaper comparisons, these are two heroes that have the same basic concept, but don't feel at all similar when you play them.
Yeah, it's not like, in a fighting game you have Ken and Ryu, and don't call him Ryu. It's Ryu. So there you go.
I was a Mortal Kombat guy growing up, so I can't really get in on this discussion.
So you have Ken and Ryu, which are variations on the same concept, but they have slight, of course, in the gameplay, when you play at higher levels, it changes quite a bit. Playing Ken that focuses on fireballs, and Ryu, the opposite. Ryu focuses on fireballs. Ken is a lot more aggressive. Ken is all about placement. And anyway, I understand it's different when you play at high levels, but as a concept, they have the same tools with variations. And maybe that will happen, in Overwatch when you have, 50 heroes or 100 heroes or whatever. You're going to have variations of different heroes. But for now, it definitely feels like you have a specific role and a kind of a similar way of getting to achieving that role. But the characters all play and feel incredibly different. It's comparing to keep with the fighting game metaphor. It's the difference between Ken and Zangief, for example. So,
yeah. I like what I've seen so far quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel homogenized in really any way.
Yeah.
On speaking of homogenization and on our early reaction to Reaper being kind of boring and run-of-the-mill. Let's talk about Winston, our first tank hero, because he's a giant gorilla in a mech suit from the moon, apparently.
Blue gorilla.
Is he blue? Is he?
Yes, he is.
He just kind of looks gorilla-colored to me.
Really?
Yeah.
No, he looks super blue. Wait, what? Am I colorblind?
I think you're colorblind because he looks like a dark gray / black furred gorilla. He turns bright red when he's really angry.
Isn't he blue in the intro cinematic? Yeah, he's completely gray on the website. Okay, maybe I'm all right. I must be seeing things.
I think you're taking the obvious comparison to Beast from X-Men and running with it a little too fast.
I was thinking he looks exactly like Beast from X-Men, and he's even blue, but apparently he's not blue.
No.
Is he not in the trailer? I'm getting crazy. All right, keep going. I'll just check the trailer.
He's in the cinematic intro.
Madness.
He's in the cinematic intro, but no. He's a silverback gorilla, so he's got like black fur.
All right.
Anyways,
all right.
So Winston's here. He's got a Tesla cannon.
Okay, in the trailer he looks bluish because of the lighting.
Okay,
that's what it is. I'm not completely insane, just a little bit.
Well, then this is where I want to go down a rabbit hole of art discussion and how the color of the lighting and your local color of an object are two completely different things.
Fair enough.
His local color would be silverback gorilla color. So
yes, I agree now. I understand. I have made a terrible mistake.
So, anyways, the chat room's making fun of my inability to grasp Street Fighter references, so we're okay. We're both equal today. We're 1 for 1. So his basic weapon just tickles me pink because it's called the Tesla cannon, and it's just like I don't know how to really explain it other than saying exactly what they wrote, which is it's a short range electric barrage. So it kind of seems like it'd be a tickle cannon because it doesn't have a big punch to it, but this thing does damage if you're in range of it. Because I don't know about you as a gamer, Patrick. When it comes to shooters, I always lean on the side of ballistics. I like bullets. I like things that have punch to it. I never go for the energy weapons because I just don't like the way they feel. How does that hit you?
I tend to agree. Yeah, unless they do an incredible amount of damage, which ends up convincing me in the long run usually.
Oh yeah, no, that's a very good point. But again, he also has a jump pack, which actually is pretty similar to Pharah's shift ability, although his seems to be a little farther. And when he lands, it does an AOE. It does AOE damage, and it says it staggers enemies. I'm not sure. Does that mean it stuns? Or does it move them from the location?
Probably that they can't move as fast.
Okay,
I'm guessing.
Gotcha, because it doesn't specify. It just says staggers. But yeah, the fact that his mobility is also an attack, I really like. Because again, setting it apart.
I haven't played him at all, so you're alone on this, man. You run.
Gotcha. Yeah, but again, keeping it different, even though there's 2 characters now with a jump pack ability, so I like that. We talked about the importance of shields in Overwatch, and Winston is one of the main shield providers outside of the next guy we're going to talk about, Reinhardt, because he has a big bubble shield, which is I play a lot of Halo, so it's not too dissimilar from the Halo 3 bubble shield. And much like all of the much like Reinhardt's shield, which allows you to shoot through. I keep going back to Reinhardt because I played the crap out of Reinhardt, but it seems like all the shields in this game, allies can shoot through it, but enemies cannot.
Yeah, I think that's the principle of it.
Right, which is great. It's a wonderful mechanic. So it's this big area. You can all just hang out in it, start a powwow, and just return fire from inside it while being safe inside. And then all the shields, I believe, also work pretty much the same way, where they can receive X amount of damage before they dissipate, or there's certain characters that are kind of counters to shields as well. But yeah, you can, if there's a shield up and you're not Symmetra or Pharah, who are kind of hard counters to shields, you can just shoot the crap out of it until it goes away. But I'll tell you, having done that, it's not the most effective way. So, and then of course his ultimate, which was spotlighted very heavily in the cinematic that they did, but it works pretty much the same way as Primal Rage. He turns big and red. Not blue, Patrick. And he I tweeted at you. You'll see he looks purplish in that shot. I'm gonna look at this right now and make terrible radio. His hair is still black. His snoot looks a little purplish. I'll give you that. Okay.
Thank you.
So you're not insane. Well, you might be, but not about this.
Something today. I've established that I am not insane. Thank you.
But anyways, back to Primal Rage. He can't use his gun anymore when he activates this ability. It is all a melee attack that he gets, and he can also jump pack while he's in his Primal Rage. So your jump pack landing damage is still, you can still do that. And as a matter of fact, it throws jump pack on a significantly decreased cooldown while you're doing it. So he just becomes this highly mobile, for lack of a better word, shit brick house. He's very hard to kill. He's beating the crap out of everyone with his bare hands, and he's jumping all over the place, staggering enemies. And it's, again, when it happens, it completely changes how you have to react to this hero, and it's great, and it's also kind of horrifying. So
it's faithful to the version we see in the cinematic trailer.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But he becomes a melee character, right? What happens when you click the mouse button? He punches,
he kind of does like an area sweep, like he swipes across in a frontal arc. Okay, and it's got a pretty decent range? Not range, but like radius. Like it's a good cone in front of him.
Okay,
because obviously it's still melee, so you still have to get close. But because your jump pack you're able to use it a lot more often. You know, you're closing the distance. You're just staying on top of people and just knocking them around. So it can really upset a. Again, we talk about what happens when the team you're fighting against kind of congeals in one area around an objective. This is another ability that if you can get in the middle of their kind of encampment, you can just disrupt everything they were trying to do. Because you pop this, you're very hard to kill, and you're just smacking heroes all over the place.
And I guess we didn't mention it at the beginning, but it's pretty obvious, but it's a tank hero. So they're supposed to be really good really hard to kill and really good for guarding an objective. Reinhardt and himself and Winston have these shield abilities that if you can be at the point you want to guard and establish your shields, you're obviously going to be making a much better job at that. And they also have, both of them, I believe, have 600 health. So again, we're not super precise about health, but if you want to get a range or a scale between the squishy offensive characters and these characters, it's 2 to 3 times more health. So you're going to need to shoot 2 to 3 times at them more. Plus, they have their shields. They're really, really hard to kill.
Yeah. Yeah, they're very imposing, and I feel like if you're someone like Tracer, I would just evacuate and wait for the ability to dissipate.
Yeah.
Because
how long does it last?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
I didn't
go to the subreddit, Overwatch subreddit, reddit.com/oncoming. r/Overwatch.
I would pop
They
open
have all the info.
Yeah, I would pop open the video, but I don't want to just assault us with sound out of nowhere. So, because at the moment it's pulling everything in. But anyways, let's move to our final hero and one of my favorites that I had a chance to play, which is Reinhardt. I feel like Reinhardt is one of the more unique heroes for a game that is primarily a first-person shooter.
You mean as opposed to the giant space monkey from the moon who's also a scientist?
Yeah, but he's also got a gun, so at the very least, I'm just like, oh yeah, first-person shooter. He's got a gun.
That's true. That's
Reinhardt doesn't. He has a hammer. A big hammer, but a hammer, nonetheless. And we talked about last week how there is a decent amount of seamless blend between third-person and first-person action. There are certain abilities you will use with given heroes that will pop you into a third-person perspective, and Reinhardt is a good showcase of this because one of his main moves, which is his shield, no fancy naming here from Blizzard, it's just called shield. You hold down your right mouse click, and he just channels this very large frontal shield. It's not a bubble like Winston's where it encompasses you. This is just a flat rectangular wall in whatever direction Reinhardt is currently facing. And he can move while he's doing it, but he can't attack.
Which, by the way, yeah, I guess you mentioned it, but Winston's shield is a dome that stays in place, and then Winston can move out in and out of it. This shield is just a wall in front of you, and you hold it, and it's a riot shield, I guess, of sorts.
Yeah, more or less. I mean, it's massive, and very effective because it can move. So you can have your offensive teammates. I saw people making Widowmaker more of an offensive hero than defensive because they'd have like a Widowmaker just following Reinhardt, standing behind him, shooting through his shield, and just capping everybody. I saw this done a lot with Hanzo as well. So he combos well with high damage heroes because they can shoot through the shield and move at the same time because Reinhardt his shield goes wherever he goes. So it works really well. And again, back to the showcasing of the third person. As soon as you hold down the right click for your shield, it just pops right out into third person, which is great because once you see the size of the shield, you kind of understand why you need this pulled back view. It's so large that to properly position it, you need a wider lens, and it works really well. Back to his hammer real quick. It's just a left click ability. Huge frontal cone that this thing provides when he swings it. So I was averse to him at first, and then I played against one, got destroyed. I'm like, oh, I want to play this guy, and I love him to death. His charge ability, which is on the shift key. So again, kind of coming back to movement because you can just use it as a movement ability, but it's also an attack. If you aim at someone and you use this, you just kind of gut them with your hammer, and if you hit a wall, you pinch them between his hammer and the wall, and it does an obscene amount of damage. And on the floor at BlizzCon...
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
So you can actually smash a character on the wall?
Yep, because the charge has a given distance.
Oh, the charge. Okay, I thought you meant the rocket hammer. Sorry.
No,
I wasn't listening again. My bad.
When you use the shift ability and he charges forward, he puts his hammer out in front of him, almost like a lance, but it's this big blunt object. And it will grab whatever hero he's currently aimed at if he hits them, if they don't get out of the way, and will carry them with him for the duration of that charge. And if there's a wall between you and the end of the duration of your charge, you'll hit the wall, pinching the hero, and it does way more damage. And when I was on the floor playing this at BlizzCon, it seemed like this was an instant kill. Every time you would hit someone with this charge, you were just dead. And you again, kind of rage inducing, but then you kind of got it. You're like, if you were a more higher mobility character, you're just like, I just don't stand in front of Reinhardt ever. Strafe, dodge, blink, whatever you can do, get behind this guy.
And it's really cool because it's a tool to displace heroes, which can be really useful. And you can also use it to do a lot of damage, an obscene amount of damage.
Yeah.
But already as a displacement tool, he goes on for a long time. So if you angle it right, you could take one key element of the enemy's team and get them so far away from the center of the action that pretty much by the time they get back, they're probably all going to be dead. So,
right, absolutely. So. I'm surprised I wasn't drawn to this guy a lot faster, because in any kind of role-playing type scenario like WoW and whatnot, I'm always the paladin getting in the stuff with my shield and hammer and shooting light everywhere, and he totally has that vibe. And I was very impressed by how well this translated into a first-person arena environment. It's great. It's very fun. But did you mention his Earth Shatter ability?
No, I didn't.
Okay. So his ultimate ability is Earth Shatter, and he does just a big slam with his hammer into the ground, and the effect almost, again, to make Warcraft comparison, looks almost like Consecration, but even more badass because it's a newer engine. But it knocks down people hit by it, and obviously damages them. So you can. I'm curious what happens, and I didn't get a chance to see this on the floor when I played it. I'm curious to see what happens when he does this if someone else is in front of him channeling their ultimate. If it's a channeled ultimate, does it interrupt it?
That's a very good question.
Yeah, like if you hit a Pharah, I guess Pharah's kind of in the air when she's doing hers, so maybe not. But
what about Bastion when he is in turret mode?
Right. Yeah, that's another good. So I don't have an answer, and I'm very curious. So if anyone out there saw this in action when someone was doing a channeled ability, write in and let us know, because I'm very curious.
It does feel visually it's possibly the least compelling one we've seen. He just like smacks his hammer on the ground, and that's it. It happens really quickly. So
yeah, no, I agree. Another one of his abilities that I skipped over was what is it here? It's Fire Strike, and he whips his hammer like it's like a projectile, and it shoots this flaming projectile in a very small, almost sniper shot like area, but you kind of have to arc it, and it does a ton of damage if you actually nail this thing, but it's hard to land a hit with it. And I actually find that a little more interesting than his ultimate. And this is the first hero where I find his basic abilities more compelling and more interesting than their ultimates.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a ranged ability for this character, which is all about the melee damage. So that also gives you a little bit of an additional option.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, write in, folks. I am interested about his ultimate ability, because it'll make it definitely more desirable if it's an interrupt. And if it knocks people down, I'm assuming that's how it acts. Because this is a game where we have channeling, and in any game where there's heroes that can channel abilities, interrupts are very important.
There aren't that many channeling abilities, though, are there?
No, at the top of my head, all I can really think of is Pharah's ultimate. But, yeah.
Okay.
But like you said, I'm curious what happens if he hits a Bastion while it's in turret mode and stuff like that as well. But we'll have to see. But did you have a chance to play Reinhardt?
A little bit. I found him really difficult to play. Not really difficult, I guess that's not fair, but all of the other characters that I played, I could get the hang of it really quickly. Reinhardt, I could see he was super effective when played by other people. I was getting destroyed by Reinhardt, but I couldn't quite get the hang of him. Now, I played him for maybe 3 minutes during one of the few games I played, so it's not like I gave him a fair chance. But yeah, so he's also not, the character is not a fantasy I quite get into. Characters like the offense characters we talked about, all of them are more compelling to me as that's the kind of superhero I'd like to play. Hanzo is awesome, Pharah is really cool, Reaper is compelling, and Tracer is British.
I was going to say instantly fun, but all right, British works too. Oh man, yeah. But I enjoyed Reinhardt. He's definitely not. You seem to really gravitate towards like Reaper and Tracer and such. He's so far from that. He's not sneaking around. He's not really getting in the tight interior areas. He's all about commanding these open alleyways, and there's all these maps have objectives, and he's all about like, all right, where is it? Well, that's where I'm going to go, and I'm going to disrupt whatever the other team's plan is around this objective. So the map that takes place in England, I forget what
King's Road.
King's Row.
Yes, that's what I say. That's what I said. What did you say?
I knew row was in the title. I couldn't remember what the first word in it was, but it has a lot of alleyways, and Reinhardt's, his charge ability really just makes these alleyways kind of horrifying to be in. So you combine that with Hanzo's ultimate, like we were talking about. It's just you got to really be careful in these straightaways, because these heroes they're like muscle cars. They're really good in a straight line, but holy crap, if Reinhardt has to turn with his shield, he's in trouble.
How fast does the shield turn when he turns? Is it instant?
It's significantly. It seems like it's slower because he moves way slower, and it seems like he's on a bit of he has kind of a turn speed once it's channeling. I could be remembering it incorrectly, but
it would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I felt like there was a turn speed kind of in place. It's like I don't think he turns as fast as you turn your mouse.
All right.
Flick your mouse. He kind of not lazily, but he's a big robot dude. Come on, give him time.
Come on, Reinhardt, move it a little bit.
But anywho, got a little time. Got to end soon. But do you think we have time to do emails? Do you think we should wrap up here and save them for the mailbag episode?
Well, your call, really.
Okay. Well,
either works.
Let's take one. We'll take our first email here. Again, the email is mail overwatchers@gmail.com. Damn you, Patrick. Our first email ever. It comes to us from Tori, who writes, quick question. I'm a WoW and Hearthstone player and have never been much into the first-person shooter style of play. I'm confident I'm going to enjoy Overwatch because Blizzard. Because Blizzard. If I piddle around with TF2, will that help train the first-person shooter muscle memory a bit? Are there better games for training my non-FPS mind? And I always find these kind of questions interesting. We get it a lot on the Heroes of the Storm show I do from folks who aren't in the alpha yet. They're like, well, should I play League of Legends? Should I play Dota? What should I be doing? What would you say? I don't think Team Fortress 2 is a bad place to start if you've never played a first-person shooter before.
I'm sure there are better answers than this, but it definitely feels like Call of Duty or Battlefield or even Titanfall are not the kind of game that are the most similar to this one. The one that comes to mind is Team Fortress 2. There is definitely something about it that feels similar. I think it's some elements.
I think it's the class based, and that each different class has a different kit.
I don't know. I think there's something about, maybe it's because I played Tracer a lot, but there's something about the how reactive the controls are. It feels really like one-to-one. When you move your mouse, your screen is moving with it. And that's not quite exactly the case with the realistic military shooters, I feel. And maybe that's my lack of experience talking, but the speed and reactivity of it feels a little bit, feels like Team Fortress would train you if your goal is to train your non-FPS mind, as you put it, Tori, sorry. Then I think that's probably the best thing to do. But you're going to have to learn, to get into Overwatch. There are a lot of different things in the way you approach it as well. So I don't know that it's going to, but yeah, I think TF2 is probably the safest bet. It's also the obvious one, but yeah.
Yeah, because they do the heavy, which kind of takes the tank role. They have the medic, which kind of takes the healer role. They even have an engineer, which reminds me immediately the Torbjorn, who we're going to talk about next week, reminds me immediately of the engineer from Team Fortress 2. So I really can't think of a better first-person shooter that it currently exists for you to try. I think Team Fortress 2 is the way to go because each character does play significantly different from the other. They all have more traditional weapons, but it's still, everyone feels very unique and very different, and there is a tank, there's a healer, and there's a ton of damage dealers. So go give it a shot. Because also it's free, which is another great thing. So you can just go try it with no personal investment. You just get in, you can play, and you can have a good time. And it is a very fun game. So,
is there another game that could FPS? I mean, I'd be interested to know. Destiny does not feel similar, for sure.
No, there's only 3 classes, and they feel pretty much exactly the same.
But even about the gameplay, it's not even talking about the classes. Even about the gameplay, I'm wondering if
it's much more traditional shooter. You got
so if we're missing something, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to think. Everything I think of is just a Team Fortress 2 kind of spin-off like Gotham City Imposters, which is not that great of a game. And I think TF2 is that would be my vote. But again, feel free to write us, guys, and let us know what you think is the best kind of pre-Overwatch game to kind of stretch your get yourself in the mindset for. So. Yeah. Anywho, I think that's going to do it for this week's episode. I have to start work, man. I just want to play Overwatch. Is what I want to do, and I can't. But again, feel free to send us emails. We're going to do a mailbag episode. It's mailoverwatchers at gmail.com. So it's MAIL overwatchers at gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter at OverwatchCast. All of the good names were taken, and you have found this out, Patrick, as we've been trying to. We want Overwatchers in our Twitter name, and already Overwatchers is very many characters. And
it's not easy.
We can't find any other combination.
Yeah, I have a problem with things being called, podcasts of things being called something cast or pod something, or I don't know. It's weird, a weird thing I have, and I've tried to find another name for the Twitter account, and I couldn't. So
we'll keep trying. We'll keep discussing, because that's a good thing about the Twitter thing. You can always change it. So anyway, for now, that's where you can find us. The VODs go up on youtube.com/StarcastShow, which has nothing to do with Overwatchers because I can't change the YouTube domain. So go check all that jazz out. If you like the audio only feed, we're found on iTunes. We're finally up on Stitcher. They take forever to approve podcasts. And so go check us out there. Patrick, where can folks find you when you're not doing Overwatchers specifically?
I guess they could go to twitter.com/notpatrick if you want to follow me there. It's probably the easiest place to get everything I do. But otherwise, you can go to frenchspin.com, where I have a bunch of shows. One of them I just recorded is the Phileas Club, which is, I'm not sure it's very relevant to people who will be interested in this show specifically, but it's a show where people from different countries around the world with different perspectives and cultures get together and discuss the news and the current events, and we get a different ideas on things that we see as pretty uniform in our Western world. So I think it's a pretty cool show. I just relaunched it because I'm now a professional podcaster, so I'm doing podcasts. And if you think that's something you might enjoy, then head over to frenchspin.com. You can also find The Instance, which is a World of Warcraft podcast, at theinstance.net. And that's about it. And Daily Tech News Show I do with Tom Merritt. I'm there every week. So
awesome. I listen to a lot of DTNS. It's how I get my tech news. Big fan of the Tom and the Merritt, and I'm glad you're on there now. So
Thank you.
So people go to twitter.com/notpatrick. That sounds like they would not find you. They would find someone who is not Patrick.
I'm winking at the camera right now.
You. Well, if you enjoy what I have to say, you can see a lot more of it. And usually it's just me complaining about things like Proving Grounds and Warcraft or or whatever happens to be bothering me that day. You can find me on Twitter at Garrett Art with 2 R's and 2 T's. Over at amove.tv is where you can find all of the shows that I do, including this one. amove.tv/Overwatchers is the website for this show specifically. And final personal pimp, check out nomoonart.com. I do graphic design. That's my portfolio, and you can even contact me there if you're looking for a freelance designer. So go check that out. Hope you guys enjoyed this second episode of Overwatchers, and we'll see you all next week. And to my listeners in the U.S., have a happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, yes, you have a happy Thanksgiving, and everyone else enjoy the sales that are going to be happening everywhere for us as well.
I'm going to finally pick up Shadow of Mordor.
Bye.
See you guys.